So something very strange and I would say quite profound just happened to me, and it's inspired this video. And so I'm gonna start by just sharing the profound thing that just happened. This is this is a card from my numerology tarot deck. Sometimes I'll just pull a card and just with this intention to just get this sort of um inspiration from life, from the universe, where it's just like I'm just pulling something out of thin air as a prompt to infuse my being with a new possibility. And usually I'll ask, what feedback or what guidance or what would sort of empower me today? What would be an empowering approach to the day? And today I asked, I was like, what is the most empowering thing that I could step into today? And I pulled this card. Now, just pulling this card alone isn't really that big of a deal, right? It's like, whatever. Financial discipline is the card. It's not a big deal, right? But what makes it a big deal is that I have pulled, I've done 5 pulls over the past week. I've pulled a card 5 separate days. And I pulled this card 4 times. 4 times out of the 5. I put it 4 times out of the 5. I'm just like, today I just pulled it. I was like, you got what? 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 And so I looked up on ChatGPT. I was like, this has got to be a significant event. Like, this has got to be some crazy probability. And I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, what are the mathematical odds of pulling the same exact unique card from a 65 card deck 4 times out of 5 attempts? And it does all the calculation, and it says the probability of pulling the same card from a 65 card deck 4 times out of 5 attempts is approximately 2.93 times 10 to the 7th, which is 0.0000293%. Extremely rare. It's even more significant to me because this year and especially this month has been the most intense ride in terms of my relationship to money, my relationship to non-material value, my relationship to my power, my sense of power in the world. I've realized that money really is about my sense of power in the world, and what I mean by that is it's really my capacity to really step into my being, into my potential, and express that potential into the world. That the more that I'm able to do that, the more that I decide to do that, and the more that I I just sort of like notice these emotional fears and kind of let them go to the side and stand in with my fierce love and my conscious anger and say, hey, no, I'm taking a stand for this in the world. This is why this is important. This is the value I bring, and this is the value I'm asking to receive. The more that I'm doing that, the more my relationship to money is shifting and changing. So if you saw my last video, you saw me talking about prosperity. That prosperity or prosperity consciousness, one way to really activate that is to or we actually were calling it wealth consciousness. One way to activate wealth consciousness is to generate wealth for others. And I've been really focused on doing that. And last time I talked about how I was going to start a book club with my family. And I did. I did it. And I'm going to be handing out these books today. I'm really pumped about it. I feel so joyous. Like, yes. So I got my mom, my dad, my brother, his girlfriend, and my friend Jackie all on board to be in this club with me. And so we're going to be going through this book, which if you didn't see before, it's called Happy Pocket Full of Money. And what it's been doing for me is really just inviting me into principles of wealth consciousness. And I read it right before I go to bed. So it's not like a Netflix doomsday scenario that I'm watching before I go to bed. It's actually something about taking responsibility for my life and stepping into a bigger bigness, which is me, which just happens to be Axios. Axios just happens to be a bigger bigness. Look at that. Look at this guy. Great. Awesome. And guess what? Guess what? I'll tone it down a bit. No, I won't. I will actually, this is what I will do. I will deliver the bigness in a different way right now. If you are watching this, I invite you to make that mean that you are also this bigness too. And that we share something here. We share something here. And I don't know exactly what that is for you, but I want to take a stand for me, and I want to take a stand for us and taking and moving in that direction. And so my question to myself has been, what does it take? What is required of me? What decisions do I need to make to tangibly be that bigness in my world? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become? And this week, what I've been learning, I have been humbled. I've been so deeply humbled. And we'll just say this past 2 weeks, so humbled. Because this thing has been reflecting back the ways in which I subtly do not take responsibility for my money. The ways that I am, that I'm not using the power of money in a way that is responsible, that is loving, that brings empowerment to the world. I'll say, yeah, this feels vulnerable to share, but I'll say it. God, it feels really, but it's like, ugh, I just need to say it. I need to say it out loud. I made a mistake. I made a mistake the other week. I owed someone money, someone I'd been collaborating with. I owed them money. And when it was time to pay them, I didn't have the money because I used it for something else, assuming that I would get the money in time, but I used it on something else, that like a bill that I needed to pay. And I used it on something else. And then I found myself caught with my pants down, like, oh wow, I don't have the money to pay this person. Oh my God. And to me, it really was like a shock to my system to not only realize, oh my gosh, like I just did this. Why did I do that? And why didn't I communicate this to this person? Like, what's going on? And also, but what really shocked me was my choice to stand and vulnerably say, I made a mistake. I made a mistake, and I'm taking responsibility for that. And yeah, and all the fears that came up with that of oh my God, I made this mistake, and now I'm impacting you, and how are you going to judge me now? And oh my God, this is like my worst fear, and I brought it on to myself essentially. And we were able to have just a really healthy dialogue around it, and create a new plan for how I was going to pay them, which I am actually doing so today. I'm really glad I was able to figure out a new solution. But I share that because one thing I realize in going through this whole vulnerable process of making a mistake, owning up to it, creating a new plan of action with them, involving them, not sort of hiding away, doing the hiding thing. What I learn is that if I'm going to take responsibility for money, I better be doing it with a little money before I better start figuring out what responsibility is on a smaller level, rather than missing that mark on a bigger level. So in this instance, it was a small amount of money that I failed to take responsibility for. And I was imagining on a if you were to, 100x that amount, and it's, if it's $250, what if it's $250 million? If it's $250 million, it's a whole, it's a whole different ballpark of experience right there, right? This one impacts one individual. This amount impacts a whole village, a whole community of people. And I started to not see these two separate amounts as different. I realized that it's actually the same thing. It's actually the same thing. The same energy is happening on a small scale and on a larger scale. And so if I'm not taking responsibility for my life on these in what I call a small thing, the small thing that is impacting one person, then who am I to say that that's not going to happen on a larger scale if I am to be there? So I feel really glad because life is inviting me to take responsibility for the little things so that when it is time for me to take on those bigger responsibilities, which will have to do with money, I will have sorted this out in myself. I have gotten clear on the emotional fears that have me take unconscious actions which hurt other people. So I am curious, if you're listening right now, what are the ways in which you have not been, maybe very subtly, what are the small ways in which you have not been taking responsibility for money in your life? And that might be very, very subtle things. It might just be like forgetting to pay back your friend the $10 that he or she paid for you for dinner. Just forgetting about it. It's like, okay, it's not a big deal, right? It's like $10, whoopity-doo. And if you, a thousand times that, forgetting to do this is some sort of survival strategy. It's very clearly forgetfulness is a thing. People use forgetfulness all the time to justify, not taking responsibility for things. And if you think that's not happening on a bigger scale, I'd advise you to think differently, because it's certainly happening. It's very easy to forget about something and not have to take emotional responsibility for that. But maybe it's something different for you. Maybe it's, you're not taking responsibility for the values that you need to be asking for your service. That instead, you're doing this people-pleasing thing where you're just being okay with being paid at an amount that doesn't feel good to you. Or maybe it has to do with you paying people. Maybe you're doing this sort of poverty mentality thing where, when there's a sliding scale for something, you just pay the bare minimum every time, even though you have a lot of money in your bank account. But you're doing it because you're so afraid of going broke, and there's this like sort of, I need to hoard it all in order to feel safe. And so yeah, that little $10 thing might not be a big deal, but again, it's just like, but it actually, on a bigger level, if life this says, hey, I want to give this guy or this girl or this being more responsibility, and they check your records and say, oh, we were considering giving you $3 billion, except you have been consistently choosing to gift the lowest amount each time to people who really deserve it and need it. So we're going to choose a different client. Or, you know what? You haven't been choosing to value yourself. And so we don't want more people in the world who don't value themselves. Actually, the world needs more people who value themselves. So we're going to go to the next client who's actually charging the rates that they know they are worth, or something else. I got onto this video. I had no idea what I was going to talk about. This is the thing that's alive. So how are you going to take responsibility for that, for your choices in relationship to money? How are you going to do that today? Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to create a new offering today, and I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it out there today. Ooh, and I feel scared about that. I'm like, oh, today? Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna finish it today. I'm gonna launch it tomorrow morning. That's gonna be what I'm doing. Oh my God! Oh, he's doing that. Ah, okay. So I'll post this video Ah! See, my box is going crazy. Like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, you're just like putting out all these, making all these commitments publicly. What are you doing, Axios? Yeah, so that's the resistance. That's the parts of me that don't want to take responsibility for this. So what I would do, just because it actually makes more sense to post it in the morning, I'm going to create an offering and I'm going to deliver it. I'm going to send it out tomorrow morning. I'm gonna make the offering. I'm gonna put a value on it. I'm gonna say it's worth this much, and then I'm gonna send it out. And that's gonna be the way that I'm gonna take financial responsibility. What is your way? I invite you to discover what that is. Write that down right now, and let me know in the comments. I would love to know that. And if you read or if you watched this video this far and you want a copy of this book, I will send you one. I will buy you one and I will send you one. So if you're watching so far and you want a copy of the book, in the comments write that you send me a copy. Just write send me a copy and I will send you a copy. The first one to write that will be the one that I will send it to. And if I'm feeling really, really prosperous and wealthy, I will send it to perhaps 2 more people. So let's see what happens. All right. I love you.